All right, everyone, we are live. Welcome to our weekly Tuesday Democratic Caucus. Again, we will be in this room until the construction in the State House is done, when we will then move to room 11, which will be exciting. So again, keep coming here. If you do have any issues in getting here, we can have BSG available with a cart to drive us over. I'm sorry I did not mention that earlier. So just as the weeks go on, let me know, but soon we'll be in room 11. Just to remind everyone, floor times will continue to be 10 o'clock on Tuesdays, 3 o'clock on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and 9:30 on Friday until bills start coming to the floor and we'll need more time on the floor. Then Wednesdays and Thursdays will move to 1. Again, we'll keep everyone posted on that. The Speaker's office is sending an email every Friday afternoon that always has a really important update. So please make sure you're reading that for the week ahead. One of those updates is that we're approaching bill submission and approval deadlines. So standard form bills, also called long form bills, must be submitted to the Office of Ledge Counsel on or before January 30th. So this is submitting the request for a bill to be drafted. And then approval of the bill for public release has to be done by February 21st. The other option is short form bills. Any member can request a short form bill at any time, and it can be introduced at any time. Some other important dates: we're having discrimination prevention small group trainings this week. So this is a little different in that we're kind of grouping committees together rather than doing it in the House chamber to see how it works. So I will say, if you're in appropriations, corrections, or education, your training is happening now, so you should be there. And the agenda, again, was in the speaker's announcement on Friday, and check with your chair. If you don't know when that is, it should be on your agenda. We are also tomorrow having a caucus of the whole, 3:45 after the floor, and we'll hear more from Representative Kornheiser on that. We have a House Ethics and Rules training. This will happen in the House chamber with everyone. That's Thursday, right after the floor, around 3:15 to about 4:30. And then we have, something to flag for your constituents. There's a public hearing on the governor's initial and supplemental, basically the BAA, for fiscal year 2025. That is happening on Thursday at 1 p.m. and there's information about that on the House website. And two other quick things for your calendar. Next Tuesday at 1 p.m. we'll be hearing the governor's budget address. And then February 20th, we'll be having the joint assembly to elect a sergeant at arms and a UVM trustee. And then lastly, I'm sure this is on everyone's calendar, February 13th is the speaker's soiree. I've been practicing at the College of Fine Arts. And the theme is elevating the voices of tomorrow. So hopefully everyone will get a ticket and attend that. All right, so let's get to some policy stuff. So we have 3 presenters today. Representative Kornheiser will talk about the what's happening in education in the caucus of the whole. We have Representative Byron will be talking about the Bennington 1 resolution and a municipal election committee bill that's going to be coming out there soon. And then lastly, we have Representative Graining talking about a really great topic. Not that they aren't all great, but H34, which is an act relating to workforce leadership in Vermont. So, Representative Kornheiser.
I'm sorry, Peter can't be standing next to me today. Just imagine him here. He's at a training with his committee. But he is here in spirit. And if anything I say feels a little bit repetitive, let me know what was repetitive and you'll get a gold star for good listening. We're planning on coming up and speaking with you every week on what's happening in education and education finance. And so I do hope that clear themes emerge. That's the goal. So we know that Vermonters, including and especially our kids, are counting on us to invigorate our public education system and put it on a path to a sustainable future this session. Tomorrow, we're going to have a caucus of the whole. after the floor, with the Senate included, to hear a much more detailed presentation on Governor Scott's education transformation proposal with his team. For those who have been following testimony in House Education or House Ways and Means, many of the themes Agency of Education officials have discussed already will be fleshed out with more details. As you know, the House is already diving into substantive testimony in our committee, so we're ready to understand the administration's proposals and the proposals that will be introduced by our colleagues and committees. We're working closely with our partners in the administration to understand what is possible in this first year of the biennium, given our very deliberative legislative process, and likely even with a fully fleshed out proposal, there will be still very many policy decisions to be made, details to be worked out, and impacts to be understood. We are also listening closely to Vermonters, as are each of you throughout the state. And it's really important that we hear from you and we hear from your constituents as we move through this process. Our committees have approached these discussions with an open mind and plan to approach Wednesday's presentation the same way. Vermonters have made clear that they are ready for change. And frankly, this is not a state that's always ready for change. And so I'm hoping to sort of embrace that change along with my community. Folks in the field have also been very open to looking at reforms. And again, this is a field that's been working under pretty wildly difficult circumstances for a number of years now. Professionals that, go into work every day and take care of our kids and help prepare them for tomorrow. And they're all ready for change as well and curious and open to it. And so it's our turn now to be ready for that. I want to be clear that change can be scary, but we can find a path that secures a high quality public education system for the future. Education finance has clear corners and edges, and we can find a way forward that supports schools and children and communities that we are all proud of. A picture of fairness for all Vermonters. One where our funding, I'm speaking as the Ways and Means Chair, Peter's not saying this, one where our funding contributes to all students getting the opportunities and support they need through our public education system. And the reason why I keep on bringing Peter into the room is, I'm there with the spreadsheets, Ways and Means is there with the spreadsheets and the numbers, and the Education Committee is a fully leading partner in this work, focusing on kids and schools and communities and teachers. And we are just there to support them with the appropriate funding mechanisms. As always, really ask you to please reach out with ideas, concerns, and questions as we start down this path to create a strong and sustainable public education system that our young Vermonters will thrive in for decades to come. Also want to let folks know that tomorrow at the Caucus of the Whole, there will not be time for questions. There's going to be so many people in the room, and want to make sure that we're all there listening, processing, and the committees of jurisdiction will then have an opportunity to dive deeper with questions on each section of the proposal. So please be in touch. Members of Ways and Means should have, are each assigned members throughout the building who are their liaisons. So please, if you have questions, you have feedback, you have thoughts, be in touch with someone on one of the committees of jurisdiction to make sure that we hear from you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, great. Fabulous job. All right. You're here. Representative Byron, come on up.
Okay, just a couple of quick updates. Update on the Bennington 1 process, and also we have kind of a technical corrections bill for municipal elections that just got dropped on us late last week. I'll start with that. So it was flagged a couple of months ago, I think it was Hyde Park, that certain municipalities, if they don't have it clearly stated in their charter, about how to bifurcate sort of like floor votes and Australian ballot, that they were kind of incorrectly voting. So this technical corrections bill that we're doing clearly lays out a process of moving the process of elected municipal officials from a town vote on the floor onto the ballots. So there's sample language in here for the municipalities to use when they're on the floor. And without getting wonky, it was just something that was not really caught over the course of time. A lot of communities are doing it properly because it is governed by their charter. But for those that do not have a charter or have that language in their charter, they're going to have to use this suggested language when they move those over. The language that we're working off of, we just got this morning, so we're all just digesting it. It's pretty short. It's pretty sweet. We're trying to get it out as quickly as possible so this can take effect for town meeting day this year. So our hope is to move this as a committee bill in the next 48 to 72 hours. So if anybody has any questions for us, please come to Shay, myself, or Lisa Hango, and we'll give you as much info as we can.
Before you move on, are there any questions now?
All right. And the Bennington 1 election update, we talked about it. So the Bennington 1 conversation is around the Representative Cooper's race, where some ballots were inadvertently sent to folks in the wrong district. So the process for that, for our committee, is to vote to move out a resolution where we will offer our opinion on how to rectify this problem. We're still taking testimony on it. Last week, we spent a lot of time just like immersing the committee in the constitutional law, the statute, and precedents that apply to this with the other elections. We're going to get denser with our testimony tomorrow. We have a legal counsel for Representative Cooper coming in with a pretty detailed memo brief that will be posted on our committee page later today. And we'll be taking testimony from both the clerk of the House and the legislative council on that. We're still really pulling in a lot of information right now, but we are still trying to stick to the timeline of voting it out in the earliest days of February. Any questions? All right, quick and painless. Thank you. All right.
Great. Let's talk workforce with the Commerce Department. House Committee, Commerce.
Hi. So commerce and economic development, we do one of the more fun things that we do is workforce. And so this is a bill, H34, that started back in 2020. And I just want to give folks a little bit of history on it so that you know what's coming to you. In 2020, the coming out of commerce realized that our workforce plans are federally funded, and we're really just following the federal plan, and we weren't looking at how do we broaden that? How do we look at what state opportunities we have? How do we partner with private partners? How do we do a better job of coordinating workforce and using all of the money that we have to really develop a strong workforce in Vermont? And so the SOCWED, which is this, I had to write it down, the Special Oversight Committee on Workforce Expansion and Development, was brought into law. And it was a committee that had House, Senate, and government and executive office folks from the government, from the governor's office, all on the committee together. And out of that came an executive director for workforce. And so last session, we passed a law that created this new position at no new dollars, using money from the Department of Labor, that put a new person from the governor's cabinet into the governor's cabinet just to look at workforce. And so the committee again worked over the off session and put together a way to streamline workforce development so that we can have one report every 2 years from all the different departments. So that's what we're looking at in H34. So how do we do this in a way that is better for government operations and better for us to look at all of the data in one place so that we can actually support workforce development in Vermont? So, and we also will be delineating a little more, defining a little bit more this new executive director's job. She was recently hired, Sabina Haskell. So we passed it. It went into effect in July. The governor appointed someone and we have somebody in the job now. So that's excellent. We're very excited to be working with her. And we're excited to be working on this bill. It'll probably come out of our committee next week. We had thought it would be this week, but now it's going to be next week. So we're happy to talk to folks if you have more questions. Yeah.
Any questions?
Hi, Barbara Rachelson, Burlington. So one question I have, because I've frequently worked with the local workforce development folks, and I'm wondering if the existing dollars that were used change the staffing locally, because one of the people that I reached out to, who was usually really responsive, like didn't get back to me. And so I'm just wondering if local staffing has changed and how can we find out who to contact?
So I'm guessing this is a Department of Labor. So Department of Labor is significantly understaffed right now. We're hearing that there are issues statewide around that. And as a committee, we've been talking to them a lot about what can be done to help them staff up to support Vermonters better. You know, we don't have great ideas yet, but we are following it really closely and trying to help them get more people in those jobs to help people. So I'm wondering if it's a workforce. This won't impact that.
So this isn't like they didn't, in order to fund the executive director position, defund some other.
There was a lower level position that was
Okay.
elevated and the position had an interim and it was unfilled,
Okay.
right? There have been
Okay.
a number of unfilled positions at the Department of Labor. And so this is using that to make positions that will better support Vermonters going forward.
Great. I mean, they have a lot of really great offerings, so
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
And there's a lot more detail in this about the workforce board and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm happy to get into detail, but I'm not sure anybody really wants it right now.
Any other questions?
Yes, I'm Sarita Austin from Colchester, Rep. Austin. I'm just wondering, can you give a little bit more detail about this new position, like what her role and responsibilities will be?
You want to? Okay, so, yeah, so the job is to work to coordinate federal dollars, state dollars, and private dollars, and to coordinate job offerings, trainings, and transportation, right? Like all of the things that go into how do we make sure we have a workforce in Vermont that supports the businesses in Vermont. And so it's being defined right now, right? We've only done the broad strokes. This bill, H34, will do more of it. Like I said, it's not coming out of committee until next week. So we'll be talking about the detail there. But we've only been focusing on how the federal money can be used up till now. And so that's been leaving a lot of gaps in what's available. And we have not been able to coordinate and make sure that there isn't duplication or really understand where the gaps are in workforce training. And so this person will be able to look at all of the different departments, not only Department of Labor, because everything had been fully focused in the Department of Labor. So they can work with the Agency of Commerce and Community Development and Education, Agency of Education, and all of the other places to make sure that we are supporting the workforce properly in Vermont.
Will she be working with the Department of Education, the Agency of Education, to align CTE, what's going on with CTEs and high schools to make a smooth, kind of seamless transition?
Yeah, that's one of the conversations we've already had, because that is, you know, CTEs and tech ed for adults and for children is part of the purview of this. Yeah. Yep.
Any other questions? Great, thank you. Oh, sorry. Back over there.
So Charlie Kimball from Woodstock. So it's been a couple of years, but as I recall, there's really a lack of some kind of coordinated effort at the executive level of the branch to oversee all the different disparate programs throughout the state, right? So this is trying to bring it all under one person, one kind of organizational structure. Does anything happen for the Workforce Development Board, the State Workforce Development Board in your bill? And then the positions that we had, Dustin DeGree was in the position over the Workforce Development Board. Is that position eliminated now? Just want to figure that out.
So this is the primary contact for the Workforce Development Board. The board has been reduced from 63 members down to 27 members. So it's actually nimble and can function well. And part of that bill that we passed, so this was part of the bill that we passed last session. And we can still have more committees under the Workforce Development Board that pull in people who are not on the Workforce Development Board. So we can access those folks for their specialty, but they don't have to attend every single meeting. You don't have to have a quorum of, 32 people to even start the meeting, right? So it's much more nimble. And then there's also an executive oversight of that board that's even smaller group of people that this executive director works with. So it should be able to, right, the board should be able to work in a much more nimble and effective way than it had been in the past.
Last question, sorry. Yeah. Is the composition of the Workforce Development Board still the same, with half coming from industry and half coming from government or nonprofits?
Yeah, it's required that for every person who is from government, you have one person from industry, I think it is, or two people from industry.
Okay.
So the minimum number of people that you can have on the board is 27 to cover all of the regions that we need to cover. So that's why we went with that number.
Yeah, that's 57 was unwieldy.
Yeah, 60, yeah.
All right.
Yep, 63 was ridiculous.
Great. Thank you both. This is the Commerce Committee has been working on workforce for several bienniums now. And so it's really great to see it all come together. So H34 was the bill. You want to follow it? And we'll give you an update on when that's coming out, but look for it in the next week or so. And I think that's it for today. So everyone have a great week. Oh, we have a question. Oh, hold on one second.
Introduce yourself.
Jim Maslin, Windsor Orange 2. Over the years, I've become a big fan of short form bills.
Yes.
The reason is that we will find that we spend a lot of time drafting a bill and it goes to committee and they do whatever they want with it anyway, to be sort of blunt.
We do our work in the committee.
Right, you do your work. So we do our work. A short form bill is a statement of purpose. And if it's well crafted and written so you get your point across, that's the place the committee ought to start anyway. It saves Ledge Council a lot of time, saves us a lot of time, committees a lot of time, and then there's the work we do. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that public announcement. I support it wholeheartedly. And if you have any questions on any of that, please reach out to a member of leadership. Our legislative council works really hard and they, don't have a lot of staff just like we don't. And so let's be thoughtful about, what we're asking them to draft. Any other questions?